This is Mitch, and welcome to the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. I'm here with Dave Foster, and we're going to be talking about 1031 exchanges. This guy's the intermediary for 1031 exchanges. I've done a few in my life, not a lot of them. I'm interested myself to learn from this guy because he's a pro. He's over in St. Petersburg, Florida. Don't we feel sorry for him? He likes to sail. So before we get started, let's talk about our sponsor, taxfreefuture.com. Go to taxfreefuture.com. Check out, if you don't have a tax deferred or tax-free retirement account or some kind of account to grow your funds tax-free or tax deferred, you are missing a huge tool in your tool belt, gigantic. And it's a lot, you can do a lot more with it than you might think. So go to taxfreefuture.com. Give us a little micro information. I promise that they won't beat you up with 1,000 emails every day or anything like that. And then you'll be opened up to 37 little video vignettes about the amazing things you can do and what it's all about. You won't believe what your financial advisors are not telling you. And we're going to tell you what they're not telling you. And we're going to tell you why they're not telling you. And it'll all make sense. And then you can proceed from there as you wish. But it's a real eye opener. So go to taxfreefuture.com. All right, I paid the bills, Dave. How you doing?
I'm doing absolutely awesome, Mitch. It's great to be here today. By the way, I love your sponsor for today because they are to retirement what the 1031 exchange is to outside your retirement. And that strategy, why pay tax when you can shelter it and use it for your own purposes?
I had a very wise old man tell me once, and he was very wealthy. He says, let me tell you the rules about taxes, okay? Here's the main rule. Postpone, 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 die. Woohoo!
That's exactly right. We turned it into the 4 Ds. Defer, 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 and then die.
Oh, the 4 Ds. Okay, I like that better. Defer, 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 die. Yeah.
Now, do you know why that is so critical? Because when you die owning a piece of real estate, your heirs get what is called a step up in basis, which means the day you die, all of that tax that you didn't pay through the course of your lifetime disappears. And your heirs get the property to start over with no tax due. It's a great gift for your kids, but you better be careful if you're going to tell them about it. Because you know what has to happen.
Off, right? They might knock you off, right? Okay, so this is fun. You got a lot of information. I love it. But let's back up. Tell us a little bit about your history. Tell us how you got to this point, or where you're from, and then we'll go on because I got a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, like I was telling you, before we started broadcasting, I grew up in Kansas, but I'm a sailor at heart. So I migrated from Kansas to Colorado looking for sailboat water, and that didn't work. I don't know why. I'm also not the brightest geographical guy in the world. But while I was in Colorado, my wife and I were really desiring to get off the corporate train and find a way, because we had just had our first son. And we were so excited to find a way to start to generate income that was not going to require being a slave to a job. So in looking at it, real estate seemed perfect 25 years ago. And so I did what all kinds of your listeners did. I went and bought a duplex and fixed it up and slaved away and turned around and sold it.
Pretty much the same story,
Yeah. And so what happened? Well, I was all fat and sassy.
That was a job.
Yeah. As soon as I went to my accountant and he said, here's the tax bill. I went, no way. And I started weeping almost. It's like, how much of that hard work went to just paying a tax bill? Now, that was 1996, and the IRS had just changed the tax code relating to 1031 exchanges so that they were now going to be user-friendly. I didn't even know what they were. But some friends of mine called me to mock me about my tax bill. That's the kind of friends I got. And they said, by the way, Dave, we're starting a business to become qualified intermediaries because those are the people that do these 1031 exchanges. And if you would have been a part of us and done one, you wouldn't have had to pay that tax bill. Well, the light went on. I looked at the statute. I said, I'm in. So for the next 25 years, when I sell and buy real estate, I use 1031 exchanges and I don't pay tax on the gain. And I've been working with thousands of investors over that time. That's the power of it, that I get to use those tax dollars now to go buy more investment real estate and never pay the tax until what happens, Mitch? I defer, and I die.
Yep. Yep, that's the plan, huh?
Well, there's not a statutory holding
It's your
period.
intent, right?
That's exactly correct. It's your intent. And the way the statute reads is your intent must have been to hold the property for productive use in trade, business, or investment.
That's your intent when you bought it.
Correct. So most people will tell you that they're comfortable with a year. And the reason for that is that a year takes a property from short-term capital gain to long-term capital gain. That feels long, right? But a year also ensures that the property is on 2 consecutive tax returns. And it goes across 2 calendar years. And there's some court rulings out there that talk about 2 tax years, 2 calendar years. The bottom line is it's subjective, and it's up to you to be able to demonstrate what your intent was. Now,
What I just heard was, though, if I buy something in November, I might just have to wait till January to sell it.
and if you meant to hold it, you could absolutely 1031. I got to tell you, my favorite.
But I did it 65 times in a row. Like, so there's, you can't.
Then it's not an accident.
That's
exactly right. Hey, here's my favorite story of all time from this year on this subject. I had a client call me up because, Dave, I wanted to sell a property. Does it qualify? We were talking through it. He'd only owned it for 2 months. And I said, hey, yeah, it was in Tennessee. I said, well, why did you buy it? I said, because you can't just buy properties, turn around and resell them and do a 1031 exchange. Your intent has to be to hold it. He said, well, does it help if in the purchase and sales agreement, I had to agree to honor the lease of the tenant who was a friend of the seller? I said, well, yeah, that would certainly help. It's documented. You were buying it to hold and honor that lease. I said, but wait a minute. Why are you selling the property now? He said, well, I lost the tenant. How do you lose a tenant in a month? He said, well, the bear took up residence by her trash can, and now she's scared. So she left. I said, I got to think that that's probably a pretty good demonstration of your intent.
Yeah, you just can't use that intent 65 times in a row.
Exactly. And how do you plan on a bear?
Yeah. I mean, how many bears are there?
Exactly. So yeah,
my thought is, this is what I want to know, because I'm asking personally. See, you know what? One of the reasons I do these podcasts, Dave, is because I get a lot of good information. So if I hold a thing for a year, and then I sell or finance it on payments, do I get to collect all those payments for free?
You don't if you simply do an owner finance. Like you well know, you're going to pay the tax over time. Okay, but there is a way to combine a 1031 exchange with owner financing that would let you collect those payments for free. So one of the keys to remember in a 1031 exchange is that in order to defer all tax, you've got to do 2 things. And by the way, the 1031 we're talking about, Mitch, for your listeners, is a sale of real estate followed by a purchase of real estate. That's the mechanism. So you've got to purchase at least as much as you sell, and you've got to use all of the proceeds from the sale in the purchase. So in a normal course of events, you sell a piece of property, a mortgage may be paid off, cash goes into your exchange account. So you have to purchase as much as you sell and use all that cash. When you owner carry finance, there are actually 2 proceeds to the sale. There's the cash down payment from the buyer, and there's the note that they're agreeing to pay for you. So let's say you were selling a property for $100,000, and they give you $20,000 down, and you carry a note for 80. The two proceeds that would go into your exchange account, because you can't touch the money, so they've got to go to your qualified intermediary, would be cash of 20,000 and a note for 80,000.
And
Now,
so the payments would have to go to the intermediary too?
initially, but they end up washing back to the client. But those two things have to be used to purchase the new property. Well, you could either sell the note on the secondary market to create cash, but you're going to take a haircut. May not be the best. But you could also go find from any source anywhere $80,000 in cash. Liquidate a stock account for the folks at Tax Free Future. Why don't you go borrow against a 401k or something like that? Wherever you want to get $80,000, take it and swap it for the $80,000 note that's in your exchange account. That's exactly what you're doing. And how much did you buy that note for?
100%.
$80,000. Exactly. So now your exchange account has $100,000 in it. Go buy a $100,000 property. You just deferred all your tax. And now you also have a note that you paid $80,000 for that's worth $80,000.
If you had it in your IRA, it'd be perfect.
Tax free, except for the interest. And you're right. If it's in your IRA.
It's not really an arm's length transaction, is it, between your IRA and your 1031 exchange? So that might be a conflict, right?
Well, I think with the IRA, I'm not an IRA expert, but I think what you're going to find is that it's two separate transactions. There's the 1031, which is the sale and the purchase, and then there's the lending of the money from the IRA back and forth.
The IRA is actually buying from the intermediary, right?
Correct.
Okay, so that would make it arm's length again. But I like this. Maybe, I mean, we would talk to, the expert.
Yeah, we need to talk to some IRA folks about it. But the principle either way, think about that. I can generate tax-free cash from a note and only pay tax on the interest. And at the same time, I can tax defer all of the capital gain.
Just for the record, I want the listeners out there to know, and you too, Dave, I sell my notes whenever I want to, and I don't ever give a discount, ever. And if you go to the institutions, you will take a haircut, but there's ways to sell notes. There's a lot of people that want to make 8, 9, 10%, average Joes.
There you go.
That would love to have a piece of collateral, and get 8% as their, as a rate of return. So just for the record.
Well, yep. And so for those people looking to maybe do a 1031 with owner financing, call Mitch.
Yeah, private money is a wonderful thing. And once people trust you and you got things down, I mean, even if they don't trust you, if the collateral's worth that much more than your note balance, it's a no-brainer for most people. How long have you been doing this?
Did my first 1031 exchange back in 1999, and I've been doing them for other people since. So 20 some years. Old enough to know better and too young to care.
Okay, so you're offering a free pamphlet or download on how to accomplish a 1031 exchange, what you need to do, right? And then you're also offering a free consultation, and then you're also offering $50 off your first 1031 exchange, and 1031s run between $700-800 generally, right? I'm guessing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you compare the cost of 1031 just in general versus the cost of paying tax, and what that's going to take off the table, it's nobody's level.
Not even a conversation, right? I mean,
but it is a very specific process that, as tick marks, has a lot of regulatory constraints. I like to talk about,
timelines, right? I mean,
some timelines that'll get you. Yeah. So I like to say it's like being 2 miles deep in a 2-foot wide creek. And so the consultation side of it, the strategic side of it are really critical, because using 1031 exchanges most effectively is going to be different depending on the stage you're at in your career and depending on what stage the market is in. There's different ways to use them best to your benefit.
Like right now, a lot of people in my city are saying they're not doing 1031 exchanges because it's so hard to find a deal on anything that they just have to pay market price for the next thing. You know, some of these commercial guys, some commercials
Sure.
really hot around here. But and I will attest that time frame, although it seems, what is it, 120 days or whatever it is, it seems like a week. I mean, if you don't get off your ass, like right now, the day that you go, what's better to do is don't even have your sale till you got a property like in your sights or something. That's how I like it.
Well, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, the actual timelines are you have 45 days
Yeah,
from the date you close your sale
to
to
identify.
identify your potential replacements. Now, but when you think about that 45 days, first of all, do exactly what you said. Start shopping before your old property closes. Get a property under contract before your old property closes. You know, you can, if you can get a contingency, that's awesome. And all of a sudden that 45 days just became 3 months.
An extra 45 days.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So there's plenty of ways to mitigate that. But the illustration is exactly right. The best time to sell a piece of property to maximize your revenue is the worst time to try and buy a property in that same market. And the converse is true also. The hardest time to sell a property to do a 1031 is the best time to go shopping. So how do you use it to work? Well, one key would be to not look in the same geography. 1031 works anywhere in the country for any type of real estate. So if where you're at down in San Antonio, things are tight, the market's tough, maybe Tulsa, Oklahoma is a hidden little gem where there's opportunities. Or maybe for a lot of my clients, California has peaked out with appreciation. And so they're all trying to jump ship and move to places like San Antonio where cash flow is better. So the 1031 works perfect for those kind of things. And depending on where you're at in the market, selling residential, buying commercial, or selling industrial and buying vacation rentals, you can change the type of real estate to take advantage of whatever the market's going to give you.
Very smart. So I'll tell you, I'll pull my pants down and show my hiney. One time I was doing a 1031 exchange and I ran out of time and I just bought a house for barely under market so I could put it up and do another 1031 exchange so I could start over again.
You know, sometimes that's worth it. Think about if you overpaid $10,000 for a $20,000 house. You think, well, I just lost $10,000. But what if your tax bill would have been $50,000?
Well, so I just bought one for like 10,000 under, which wasn't asking for the moon. You can always get,
So you even did better.
and
Absolutely.
and I had to pay another 750, but you know, I sold the house for a little bitty tiny ass profit, a couple $1,000, you know. All I wanted to do was reset the clock. And what I did during that time was I formed leases, I formed all this stuff, you know, so my intent was, and you know, then the bear came and camped out by my trash can and scared
There's
me.
only so many bears.
Well, I only needed one, and you can always find one bear. We don't know where he came from, but so, but I did that one time. The nicest time I ever did it, I did it on a $1.7 million building that I had nothing in hardly because I had bought it during the height of the recession in 2009 or 10 or whenever. And that felt so golden to have escaped, because when you look at what the tax bill was going to be on that, it was horrendous, you know.
Yeah.
It was so golden. I really, honestly, after that closing, I did go out in the parking lot and dance a jig in front of everybody. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, there's actually, so from my experience, you've done a beautiful job running through your cycle. From my story, there's another application that's almost as much fun. And that is that you want to remember there's two parts of the tax code that talk about real estate. There's the 1031, which deals with investment real estate. And very few people know about that, but slowly the word's getting out. But there's also the primary residence, section 121. And strangely enough, Mitch, so many of your listeners don't know about it. And what it says is that when you sell a property that you have lived in and owned for at least 2 out of the 5 years prior to sale, you get to take, as a married couple, the first $500,000 of profit tax-free. Now, I know you know that because you've done it. What most people don't realize is you can do that once every 2 years. So all of a sudden you think about it, the average person stays in their house for an average of about 5 years. So over the course of a lifetime, you've got 8 or 9 opportunities to sell your house and take the money tax-free. Goes in your pocket,
That's
do
what
what
I
you want
tell
with it.
That's what I tell the young kids. You know, you don't have kids yet. You're not tied to a place or a school district or all that. Man, you should be moving every 2 years. And if you have to live in a neighborhood that isn't your favorite, the hell with that. Just do what you got to do and keep, buying a house at a discount, and then do some stuff to it over the next couple of years. Make sure and then keep rolling,
And here's where Dave and Vicky Foster combined the two. What we did is we would do 1031 exchanges into another region or area where we were going to move. And then a year or so later, after using them for investment, we would sell the house we were living in and move into the old investment house and convert it into our primary residence. Every time we would do that, the sale of our old house was tax-free. And when we converted the rental house, it then became our primary residence. And 2 years later, the proceeds prior to 2008 were tax-free. Where would we move? Into another investment property.
But you had to
convert.
Bigger houses, right? Or more expensive houses.
Well, what I did was I kept building up the bank account, because ultimately we ended up using tax-free money from investment real estate, and we bought a 53-foot sailboat and lived on it for 10 years with our kids without paying a penny in tax.
Now I know why you ended up in Colorado. You just gave up you found a deal in Colorado, and that's how you ended up in Colorado. Am I right?
I turned left and I meant to go right. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's how you ended up in Colorado, right?
That's exactly right. And we moved the portfolio from Colorado to Connecticut to Florida to Kansas, back to Florida. Never paying tax because the 1031 exchange.
Hey, I want to bring up a point, and I want you to chime in on this. These people, and you hear on the radio, like the rich get richer and the rich don't pay taxes. Here's the thing, listen up, dummies. The rules are the same for everybody. The people that study these rules and introduce themselves to people like Dave Foster and learn how to not legally, how to defer tax. That's what I'm going to say. Learn how to defer, then you'll be one of the people that don't pay the tax. It's there for anybody who wants to learn how to do it. You don't, and believe me, when I started learning about it, and when Dave started learning about it, he wasn't rich, but that's how making the money is only half of the equation. You got to learn how to keep it. You got to learn how to keep the money that you make. And so, there's all kinds of tax-free exchange and like that. Sell your homestead every 2 years, and IRAs and 401ks. If you're not wealthy, the only one you can blame is you, and go look in the mirror. Ask yourself. I got people all the time say to me, you got lucky, or you have money, or Dave has money, and you guys are all in the right place at the right time. Bullshit. We went and studied money. How many hours did you study money? You got to ask yourself, if you don't have money, how many hours have you spent studying money? I mean, money's a science just like anything else. The Wright brothers studied how to get wind to move over a wing so it'd get lift. We study how to use programs and laws and loopholes. I say loopholes, but they're completely legal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To give our bank account a lift, So chime in there, Dave.
Well, I can chime in by telling you about my favorite client of all time. who was a lady in Cape Coral, Florida. And, Cape Coral is one of those swampland turn cities where she had bought a lot for nothing. And she was selling it for $10,000. And somehow she got connected with me. She said, I want to do a 1031 exchange. I said, do you realize you've only sold this for $10,000? Her tax was going to be $1,500. By the time she got through with the whole process, she was only by and paid the 1031 exchange fee. She was only going to save about $750. I said, you realize you're only going to save $750? And she said, but Dave, that's my $750. So if it was worth it to her on a $10,000 sale, think of what's out there for everybody.
It's even more important than that. She started out doing it the way that you need to do it, even if it was only $750.
True.
That's the mindset that she's in. Like, I don't give my money away. I use things that I know are to my advantage, and I'm going to get in the habit of doing that. I'm going to just get in the habit,
Habit's a great way of phrasing it, because that's exactly what it is. And when you have a habit, one of the interesting things that studies tell us is that there are actions and activities that actually precede you doing your habit, whether it's brushing teeth. Think about the habit of brushing your teeth. You walk into the bathroom, you automatically reach for the toothbrush. That's all part of it. So what are the habits of making money? First of all, we adhere to the first rule, which is you make money in real estate when you buy it. So we start to precede that with all of the things that you would do to find the right properties to buy. And then secondly, the world that I live in most, you keep most of your money when you sell it. So preceding that, you start to do the things like explore 1031 exchanges, look at buying the property in an IRA, doing all these kinds of things that will help you keep more of your money when you sell it. So those habits of being focused generate actions before that. And that's what you're talking about. It's the planning.
Hey, the first time you do a 1031 exchange, it's a pain in the ass. It's foreign. You don't know what to do. Now, if you got
scary as all heck.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you got someone like Dave in your corner, okay, the thing is, it's not normal to most people. So you're going to have to change the way you do it, which is uncomfortable, for a minute. But if you make it how it is, then you do one, the first one's new and different and not so fun. It's awkward. It's foreign. But the next one is not quite that foreign, not quite that awkward. By deal number 3, man, you're humming down a track. You got it. Okay, this is how it works. That's the same thing every time.
Yeah. By the 3rd or 4th deal, they don't even call me anymore. They just call my processors.
Right.
And I'm begging for Christmas cards. Tell me how it's going.
Yeah. So, I've done that many times at my office. I early on in my career, I said, okay, we're putting everything in a land trust before, we're going to buy everything in a land trust. Oh, my office was up in arms. It was, they were just, didn't really want to, that change was just way too much for them. I just said, well, figure out how to do it or pick up your last check on Friday. Amazingly enough, everybody figured out how to do it. Now, a month after that, 10-15 deals in a row, it became routine, just became routine. That's how we do it. Nothing, no problem. So, tell us about what you got going on, and I think I already mentioned the free stuff. I want people to go to REInvestorSummit.com/1031 exchange, and that's 1031 EXCHANG. Let's make it exchanges, because I'm not exactly sure if I used that before. So exchanges with an S, okay? 1031 exchanges. And tell us what you got going on. Reiterate the free stuff, and then talk to us about it.
Sure. Well, in the spirit of what we were just talking about, you can download from our website then not only first a free consultation. So we spend some time talking through your process. I can tell you, one of the greatest referrals I've ever received was from a guy who said, I love Dave. He talked me out of doing a 1031 because he didn't need it. I'm like, okay. I actually do like that because it's a great tool, but it's only a great tool if it works for you. So spending the time with me, get a consultation, let us talk through your process. But then you can also download for free a brochure that's going to walk you through all of the detailed requirements of the 1031. And you sit there at the dinner table with a cup of coffee and you just go through it, say check mark, check mark, check mark. Ooh, what does that mean? Let's call Dave. So those two tools are going to really help you jumpstart the planning process. And then there's going to be a link on your site that's going to take you to our portal where you can actually get $50 off your exchange with us by signing up online. So not only am I going to save you tax dollars, I give you $50 for doing it. How's that?
Yeah, that's perfect. So it's a free consultation. Figure out, make sure you're coloring inside the lines, that you're not getting outside the lines on anything, and just check it out before always on your first one, no matter what it is, just get some counsel, man. Someone who's already done it. And here you got a pro sitting right in front of you. So go to REInvestorSummit.com/1031 exchanges, plural with an S. All right. And that'll get you over there for the brochure, the free offer for the consultation, and the $50 discount on your first 1031 exchange. And there's also, is it a 1098 where you can actually exchange into something that you're building?
Well, that would be what we'd call a reverse exchange.
Oh, reverse exchange.
And actually, yeah, we can spend a couple of seconds talking about that at the end here. A reverse exchange does not change the statutory order of a 1031. You're still going to sell your old property, followed by the purchase of property. But when that property doesn't exist yet, what can happen is that your qualified intermediary takes title to the raw land and then holds it while it is being built.
Well, it's being improved.
Or it's being improved, correct. Or until your old property sells. Either way works. So what's key is that you control it and it's being improved, but you don't have title to it. Okay. And then once it's built, close the sale of your old property, buy the new property. For improvement exchanges, these are really cool. Because let's say you were selling a property for $300,000 and you found a purchase for $250,000, but it needed $50,000 of improvements. But when it got those $50,000 of improvements, it was going to be worth $400,000. So we would take title to the property at $250,000. You would put in the $50,000 in improvements. Now it's worth $300,000. So you sell your $300,000 property and buy that one. You just completely deferred all tax. You got the perfect property you want, and you got it for $100,000 under market because it's really worth $400,000.
Yeah, because
you paid $300,000.
Yeah, you invented it. Man, so there's a lot to know, but you only need to know the piece that you need to know, which is how you stay from being overwhelmed, and that's why you talk to Dave. He keeps you from being overwhelmed. That's what a good consultant or advisor does. Is just, if it's a big task, they give it to you in little bites, or make it simple for you. So go to REInvestorSummit.com/1031 exchanges. And Dave, anything you want to say to people maybe before we wrap it up?
Well, I tell you what, I've lived in the world and I've seen the people who succeed, and the people who succeed are almost always the ones who pay less tax. So take the opportunities you've got and you will live well because it's your money. You ought to be able to use it for your benefit.
And they're giving you opportunities to keep it. You just got to be aware of them. You got to. It's like Monopoly. It's hard to win if you don't understand the rules. So understand some rules and memorize the ones that are in your favor. I'm getting ready to go to the ranch. Anybody want to go?
You're so cruel.
All right, this is Mitch Stephen with the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. I'd like to thank everybody stopping by to get you some David Foster. And again, one last time, REInvestorSummit.com/1031 exchanges. And I'd like to thank my sponsor, taxfreefuture.com. Those could be perfect combinations sometimes, and or not, but learn the rules of all the different things you can do and win. That's what you do. People ask me all the time, well, what's better, LLC or corporation? I said, I don't know. Just pick one, figure out the rules, and win. It really doesn't matter as long as you win. All right, my friends, we're out of here. Bye, Dave. Thanks for being on.
Thank you.